Hey, this is the Bo Benson Show. I'm glad to have you guys. If you want to subscribe and learn about Jehovah Witnesses and cult groups and the New World Order and things of that nature, this is the perfect place for you. Because the more we talk about it, the less power they have. And remember, the power is in the people.
Welcome, brothers and sisters.
Program, we're going to discuss the joy of in-person conventions. But first, here are a few updates. After nearly 20 years, on April 26, 2023, the government of Spain approved a historic adjustment to the country's tax exemption law. This decision confirms that Jehovah's Witnesses are a well-known and respected religion in Spain. In addition, the adjustment exempts our brothers from having to pay property tax on theocratic facilities in the country. It also allows individuals in Spain who support the work to obtain a tax deduction on their contributions. We're very grateful for this positive development. Also, as reported on jw.org, we're very pleased that on May 16, 2023, Brother Shamil Hakimov was released from
Prison in Tajikistan after fulfilling his prison sentence.
I know this is absolutely terrible, and we should be rejoicing that he's free. But whenever I see these people, I always wonder, what about those elders in the United States that were going to jail because they're not giving over those magical blue files with blue file badness? So whenever I see Jehovah's Witnesses in jail, I'm not really thinking that's a bad thing. I'm kind of like, what did they do and why are they there?
Over 180 brothers and sisters who are still imprisoned for their faith. The Apostle Paul wrote at Philippians chapter 1, verse 14, "Century Christians were encouraged by Paul's faithful example. The faith of those imprisoned in our day impels us to share the kingdom good news with zeal."
So Jehovah's Witnesses being arrested is going to make you want to preach and talk about it more. I'm going to call King Poo Poo on this one, because I don't think I have ever known a witness to go around and knock on people's doors and say, you know what? We tell our leaders to hide CSA, and then they get arrested, and then we completely forget about them and do nothing. Oh, by the way, we also make sure that we represent the abuser in these court cases so that they can get off. I don't think witnesses are going around and telling people that doing that is in the benefit of the organization because we don't want to be reproaching Jehovah's good name. I highly doubt witnesses are going to go around and tell people that. I think he's kind of lying.
But can such faithful ones in prison be sure of Jehovah's blessing and protection? Isaiah's prophecy highlights what Jehovah promised for his cleansed people. Note Isaiah chapter 4. These verses highlight the spiritual protection that Jehovah offered his servants in the past, and by extension to us today. How so? Verse 5 says that Jehovah will create over his people a cloud, smoke, and a bright flaming fire. These remind us of how Jehovah cared for the Israelites after they left Egypt. He used a pillar of fire and cloud to protect and to lead them. No, Jehovah doesn't promise us miraculous physical protection, nor does he prevent the heat of persecution or storms of opposition from bearing down on us. But as verse 6 explains,
that's right, dude. This is cloudy with a little bit of bullshit. Did you just notice, did anyone catch that this physical interaction with the reality, God did that for his chosen people to save them. But he doesn't do that for Watchtower and Jehovah's Witnesses. The funny thing is, though, they're telling the audience that they don't have the favor of their own God, that their God's not going to do anything to help them, that they're completely on their own. They just said that. No actual event is going to take place. No miracle is going to save them. Like, he literally just said that. How funny is that?
He does protect us spiritually, as if building a booth for shade and for protection from the rainstorm. What's the point? Jehovah promises to be with his faithful servants wherever they are, even if they're boxed in by 4 prison walls. Jehovah is our protector. His Holy Spirit gives us joy and peace. No human can tear down the booth of protection that Jehovah builds.
Okay, so there's just a bunch of rambling for a while now where he's talking about how people are going to be spiritually blessed and how grateful they are to go back to the conventions. Yeah, because everyone's just so thrilled for the conventions, because witnesses are just so thrilled, because no one's ever took a photo of everyone sitting in the chair, bored to death, falling asleep. No, they don't have speeches about how we need to be respectful to the people and the spokespersons, even if we don't find the information entertaining. It's important and not to fall asleep. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is just too much. So, I think it's quite entertaining that these guys are going off about how grateful we should be at the convention. And then they start talking about how people are going to be like, oh, yes, these kids are going to be so excited to write to the... I guess he's trying to say that these kids write after the convention about how great the convention is to them all the time. I'm like, what kid does this? Nobody wants to do this. No kid, even Jehovah's Witnesses kids, don't want to write letters to the governing body telling them how great it is to sit for 8 fucking hours listening to some old man talk about the same shit that they listen to 3 days a week in the same damn Kingdom Hall day after day after day. No kid cares. No kid's doing this. This is complete and utter fabricated poo-poos.
Thank you. What an expression of faith. This certainly is pleasing to our Heavenly Father Jehovah and to his Son, the head of the Christian congregation.
I don't know. I kind of think that they're probably not really that thrilled with you. I don't really think Jesus is that thrilled with you guys altering his book that he sent down, then telling people he's not who he is, even though the book says that he is his Father and he is the Lord. And you guys say, nope, he's the Son, and downgrade his position. I don't think he's going to be very happy about the way you treat CSA. I have a feeling he's going to be probably not very thrilled. And I also don't think he's probably very happy that you took his temples and you sold 50% of them in the United States to other churches who are not representing him and are not part of his faith. If yours is the correct one. But maybe he is happy that you did that one, because maybe those churches will be real churches, unlike yours. But that's just my opinion, of course. Now, this is just a bunch of really random, stupid stuff, talking about how they used to feed people at the conventions and how they make arrangements in order to feed me, and how grateful they are and how well organized and how great they are that they gave you a biscuit or something. Now, here's the thing is, yeah, feeding this much people is got to be tough, and that's got to be a lot of money, and I will admit that. But the thing is, though, they do it once a year, and I know that the organization is worth $80 billion. So let's just say that 20,000 people showed up, and you fed 20,000 people. That is going to have no effect on your budget. It's going to do absolutely nothing. It's not even going to be noticeable. Matter of fact, like, places do this every single day. Like, you're just doing this once a year. I mean, what about these other restaurants? What about these other organizations? What about these companies that do this stuff and feed people on a daily basis? I mean, even the Catholic Church has, soup things, like the soup kitchens and stuff, where they're feeding homeless people on a daily basis. You're feeding your believers and then telling them to donate money. So technically, you're not really actually feeding them. They are getting these little tickets, and then you're wanting them to donate what they think they had eaten. I mean, they tell you this in every single Kingdom Hall. So you're not really donating any food at all. You're feeding them, taking the credit for it, and then telling them to go pay for it later. Like, no one's falling for this. No one would be stupid enough to think that you just gave them something for free without expecting something. Like, you would have to be, like, silly to think that. I mean, really, come on. I mean, if you were doing this on a daily basis, feeding homeless people and, the people out there, I'd be impressed. But you're not. You're doing this one time a year, and then you're telling these people the next time they get paid to pay it back in the contribution box. I remember them telling us this when I was a kid. Oh, whatever you think you ate, make sure that you pay back to Jehovah, blah, 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 blah.
So in order to enjoy association during the noon break, we encourage everyone to bring a light lunch, which will also help us to stay awake during the afternoon session. Bring a light lunch, which will also help us to stay awake during the afternoon session. Bring a light lunch, which will also help us to stay awake during the afternoon session. Bring a light lunch, which will also help us to stay awake during the afternoon session.
I must have you eat a small lunch so not to fall asleep, because we are so boring that you can't stay awake if you eat a full meal. It is too overcoming because we are so boring and monotone.
As we return to in-person conventions, perhaps we'll feel like those from Eastern Europe who attended international conventions in Poland in 1989. That was the first convention ever for most of those delegates, although many had been in the truth for 30 years or more. One delegate from the former Soviet Union.
Wow, gosh, how shitty of an existence would you have to think that this was the high point of your life, going and sitting down with these people and listening to them tell you the most boringest stuff that they tell you every single day, 3 times a week, and then you get to sit for 8 hours and listen to it all day long. Ugh. And these people were grateful for this and were excited for this. They must have the most boring, lame, pathetic life you could possibly have to be excited to sit and listen to this dribble. It is mind-numbing just listening to it. I could not imagine having to sit through 8 hours of this again as an adult. I mean, I couldn't do it as a kid. I'd constantly have to get up and go to the bathroom just to do something because this is so freaking boring. And then I'd go walk around until my parents realized that I was gone, and they would track us down and yell at us and then spank us because we were, in the bathroom and didn't come right back. Everyone did it. We all know.
The singing at the conventions was noteworthy, as tens of thousands sang in unison in over 20 different languages, all expressing the same thoughts in a spirit of love and unity. As mentioned in the May broadcast, we encourage you to learn the new original song, "It Will Not Be Late." During the pandemic, we missed singing at large conventions. This year, to quote Psalm 7, verse 17, we'll again sing praises to the name of Jehovah the Most High.
I hate to say this, but you are aware that Jehovah is a mistranslation. Why you get so much respect and so much gratitude out of saying the wrong name to the person that you have the greatest level of respect for makes no sense. Can you imagine if you went and started talking to your wife and calling her by a different woman's name? She'd be so pissed at you. But you guys are like, oh, hey, this is great. I'm doing a fantastic job.
Do you have similar memories? If you were baptized during the pandemic, then this year's convention will likely be your first in person. You too will form memories that will last a lifetime. That's how many of our brothers and sisters felt when they recently attended the Exercise Patience Convention.
We're here at the Newburgh, New York Exercise Patients Convention. This is my first convention as a baptized witness.
Oh, I gotta tell you guys something really funny. This just reminded me. So I talked to a PMO, right? And they were telling me that at their Kingdom Hall, because most people are getting old, that they don't have enough people to do the little witness talks and stuff. There's not enough people at the congregation that they're at, that they have children 13, 14-year-olds are up there on stage giving these talks because they don't have enough people, and that they are actually letting little children become elders because they don't have enough people. We're talking really young people, 16, 17 years old, are becoming elders because they have no other choices. Because they're so desperate for people, because they have such poor numbers. And since COVID came, people talked about this. I really didn't know this for sure because I don't go to Kingdom Halls. I don't sit there and look or know anything like that. I don't pay attention to that stuff anymore. But the PMOs are telling me that since COVID, so many people have woken up and have given up and will not come. And they are actually telling people to come to the Kingdom Hall, and they won't. They're still staying at home and then watching it from the TV or whatever because they don't want to go to the Kingdom Hall. So their attendance is so freaking bad. It is at the lowest it has ever been. I think this is the lowest they've seen since the last time they predicted the end of the world, when they lost millions and millions of people. When they did that, I think it was in 1975 when they had lost millions of people. They haven't had a digression. Actually, no, the 1975 wasn't as bad as it is now. They're losing more people now than they have ever lost, I guess, in their history. So I thought that was really funny.
Pleased to inform you that 15 special conventions in countries around the world are being planned for 2024. The locations and dates will be announced in the coming months.
So this is the great thing about cults that try to be excited about things when it's going bad. For example, we have such exciting news for the next coming year. We have 15 conventions ready, right? So that means of the 195 countries out there, only 15 are willing to put up with your bullshit. 15. So that means that of the 195 out there, only 15 are willing to listen to Jehovah's Witnesses' poo-poo spills. Interesting. Very interesting. All right, so to give you guys an idea, that means 7.69%. That's their engagement rate. So think about that. That's their score. 7.69%. Only, basically, let's just round it up. 8% of the countries are willing to listen to their crap. And they're celebrating 8%. 8%, folks. We are so excited about all the diligent and great work of 8%.
So what have we discussed in this update? We're reminded
Did you
that
guys
Jehovah
suck?
is our protector. But this doesn't mean that we'll have a problem-free life in this system of things.
So you guys are blaming Jehovah for you only having 8%? I kind of think that maybe Jehovah's not a big fan of you guys, since he's only letting you be part of 8%. He's only allowing you in 15 countries. That's the best you can do. That doesn't sound like a winning team to me. That sounds like you're an F team. It sounds like that you guys are effing up and that you got a big fat F because you're failing and miserable. I mean, 8%. Can you imagine if you're like, oh, okay, so guess what, guys? My yearly wage, I'm only going to get 8%, and I am so happy for that. I'm only going to receive 8% of my food. I'm only going to receive 8% of the milk I purchased. I'm only going to receive 8% of what I need. Oh, my brain works at only 8%. Really? 8%. That is not something to brag about, folks.